Alabama takes a hard turn with new bills. By Darius Spearman, African Elements. Support African Elements at patreon.com/AfricanElements and hear recent news in a single playlist. Additionally, you can gain early access to ad-free video content. New bills spark debate in Alabama. The political landscape in Alabama has taken a significant turn with the recent passage of two controversial bills. These legislative actions have ignited discussions across the state and beyond. They highlight a deep divide in perspectives on voting rights and inclusivity. The crackdown on absentee ballot assistance. Firstly, the new legislation targeting absentee ballots has been met with widespread concern. This bill makes it a misdemeanor to offer assistance with absentee ballot applications. Subsequently, critics argue move could disenfranchise many voters. Specifically, it outlaws the distribution of pre-filled absentee ballot applications and the submission of completed applications on behalf of voters. Secretary of State Wes Allen defends the bill, stating it's meant to protect the integrity of the electoral process. However, opponents see it differently. Our elections are the foundation of our constitutional republic, and nobody should be paid for their absentee application or their ballot. News 1. Ban on DEI programs raises alarms. The second piece of legislation puts a halt to diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs in state-funded agencies and universities. This bill has sparked fears regarding its broad and undefined language, especially concerning gender identity and restroom access. Critics argue that this could lead to discrimination and suppress efforts to promote inclusivity within educational and governmental institutions. The bill's vague language on gender identity and restrooms is also alarming. News 1. Both bills have propelled Alabama into the national spotlight. As a result, they have prompted debate on the balance between election security, academic freedom, and the right to vote. As these legislative actions unfold, they reveal the complexities and challenges of navigating democracy in today's America. By examining these two pivotal pieces of legislation, it's clear that the stakes are high. Specifically, the future of Alabama's democratic processes and its commitment to inclusivity is up for grabs. The discussions and disputes these bills have ignited are a testament to ongoing struggle. At stake is who gets to participate in democracy and how we define our collective values. Tightening the reins on absentee ballots. Alabama's new legislation surrounding absentee ballots marks a significant shift in the state's approach to voting. This change has sparked a heated debate on the balance between securing elections and ensuring accessible voting rights for all citizens. The new absentee ballot legislation. At the heart of this discussion is the bill that introduces stricter regulations for absentee ballot assistance. It specifically criminalizes the act of providing voters with pre-filled absentee ballot applications. Further, it criminalizes submitting these applications on behalf of another person. This legislation, proponents argue, is aimed at bolstering the integrity of the election process. Our elections are the foundation of our constitutional republic, and nobody should be paid for their absentee application or their ballot. News 1. Impact on voters. However, critics highlight the potential negative impact of these restrictions on voter participation. In particular, those who rely on assistance to vote are most at risk. The legislation's opponents argue that it could disproportionately affect elderly voters. Moreover, people with disabilities and those without easy access to voting facilities would be among those most heavily affected. These groups often require help with the absentee voting process, from understanding the application to ensuring their vote is counted. The debate over ballot harvesting. The term ballot harvesting has been at the center of this debate. Supporters of the bill use it to describe the collection and submission of absentee ballots by individuals other than the voter. As such, portray it as a practice ripe for abuse. However, opponents see the term as a misnomer. They argue that providing assistance with absentee ballots is a critical service that enables more people to participate in the democratic process. Broader implications. This legislation raises important questions about the balance between preventing potential voter fraud and ensuring that voting remains accessible to all eligible voters. As Alabama implements these new rules, both supporters and critics of the bill will be closely watching the effects on voter turnout and election accessibility. The tightening of regulations around absentee ballots in Alabama represents a pivotal moment. At the center is the ongoing dialogue about the rights and responsibilities of voters and the state. As this debate continues, it underscores the complexities of ensuring both election security and democratic access in an increasingly polarized political climate. A blow to DEI programs. Alabama's legislative landscape has undergone a seismic shift. Signifying that shift is the passage of a bill that bans diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs in state-funded institutions. This development has sparked a fervent discussion about the role of such programs in fostering an inclusive environment. The scope of the DEI ban. The bill in question casts a wide net, prohibiting the implementation of DEI programs across a variety of state-funded entities. Such entities include universities and K-12 schools. The legislation's proponents argue it's a necessary step towards ensuring educational and governmental neutrality on social and political issues. The bill's vague language on gender identity and restrooms is also alarming. News 1. Implications for inclusivity and academic freedom. Critics of the bill warn that it could have far-reaching implications for inclusivity within educational environments. By limiting discussions and programs centered around diversity and equity, the bill may inadvertently stifle academic freedom. Furthermore, it could suppress the voices of marginalized communities. Additionally, the bill's broad and somewhat ambiguous language concerning topics like gender identity raises concerns about the potential for increased discrimination. The national context. This legislative move in Alabama is not occurring in isolation. Across the country, there has been a growing debate over the role of DEI programs in public institutions. Supporters of such bans view them as a corrective measure against what they perceive as ideological overreach. Conversely, opponents see these programs as vital for promoting understanding and inclusion among diverse student populations. Looking ahead. As Alabama navigates the implementation of this controversial bill, the implications for state-funded institutions and the individuals they serve will be closely monitored. This legislative action raises essential questions. Among them are the balance between fostering inclusivity and maintaining neutrality in public education and government services. The ban on DEI programs in Alabama marks a critical juncture in the ongoing national discourse on diversity, equity, and inclusion in public life. It underscores the challenges and complexities of addressing these issues within the framework of state legislation. Facing opposition. The introduction of Alabama's new bills has not gone unchallenged. A wave of opposition from various civil rights organizations and community groups has risen, highlighting the deep divisions these legislative actions have sparked within the state and beyond. Civil rights organizations rally. Leading the charge against these bills are prominent civil rights organizations, such as the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. These groups argue that the legislation undermines fundamental democratic principles and discriminates against vulnerable populations. Their criticisms have been vocal and persistent, emphasizing the bill's potential to erode civil liberties and silence marginalized voices. This is a direct attack on democracy and Alabama's most vulnerable populations, said Tiffany English-Relf, director of the SPLC's Alabama office. News 1. The community's response. Beyond these organizations, community members and activists have also expressed their discontent. Rallies, public forums, and social media campaigns have emerged as platforms for dissent, where individuals from diverse backgrounds voice their concerns and call for action. These grassroots efforts underscore the widespread anxiety and opposition the bills have generated among the public. Legislative pushback. Even within the legislative sphere, the bills have faced scrutiny and opposition from some lawmakers who question their necessity and impact. These dissenting voices within the political arena highlight the contention and debate surrounding the bills, pointing to a broader conversation about the direction in which Alabama's policies are heading. The path forward. As opposition to these bills continues to grow, the dialogue they have initiated about voting rights, inclusivity, and the role of government in regulating social issues becomes increasingly significant. The outcome of this debate will likely have lasting implications for Alabama and potentially set precedents for similar legislative efforts across the country. The opposition faced by these legislative actions in Alabama illustrates the ongoing struggle between differing visions for the state's future. It highlights the critical role of civil society and democratic institutions in challenging and shaping public policy. Would further expansions or modifications to the article be helpful? The bigger picture. The enactment of Alabama's controversial bills transcends state boundaries, contributing to a national discourse on voting rights, inclusivity, and the fabric of democracy itself. These legislative moves reflect broader cultural and political currents sweeping across the United States. Reflecting national trends. Alabama's legislative actions mirror a growing trend among states to address, and often restrict, practices related to voting and diversity initiatives. This trend signifies a pivotal moment in the nation's ongoing debate over what democratic participation should look like and how diversity is recognized and valued within public institutions. Moreover, these laws are indicative of the larger political polarization affecting the country as states take increasingly divergent paths on fundamental issues. Implications for democracy and inclusivity. The implications of Alabama's bills are profound, touching on the very principles that underpin American democracy. At stake is the accessibility of the voting process, a cornerstone of democratic governance, and the commitment to fostering inclusive environments in educational and governmental institutions. Thus, the controversy surrounding these bills raises essential questions about the balance between safeguarding the integrity of elections and ensuring that all citizens can exercise their right to vote without undue hardship. A call to dialogue and action. The response to Alabama's legislation, both supportive and oppositional, underscores the need for continued dialogue and action. It highlights the importance of engaging in constructive discussions that bridge divides and seek solutions that respect the principles of democracy and inclusivity. As the country grapples with these challenges, the actions taken by individuals, organizations, and lawmakers will shape the trajectory of these critical issues. Looking to the future. The debate initiated by Alabama's legislative actions is far from over. It is part of a larger conversation about the direction in which American society is heading. How these issues are resolved will have lasting implications for the values the country upholds and the legacy it leaves for future generations. As such, the bills are not just a reflection of the current political climate but a catalyst for examining and redefining the nation's democratic and inclusive ideals. Alabama's legislative developments serve as a microcosm of the broader challenges facing American democracy today. They remind us that the work of building a more inclusive, equitable, and democratic society is ongoing and that every action taken in this endeavor contributes to the larger mosaic of American life. About the author. Darius Spearman is a professor of Black Studies at San Diego City College, where he has been pursuing his love of teaching since 2007. He is the author of several books, including Between the Color Lines, A History of African Americans on the California Frontier through 1890. You can visit Darius online at africanelements.org.